what have Luton Town learnt over the last year? We've changed the players. We've changed the manager. There's only one thing we've not changed on the pitch, and that's the system.
I don't think anyone's got an answer to that other than what the hell's going on.
I couldn't, hand on heart, give you what Luton's style of play is meant to be.
Kind of feels like the striker department is cursed at the moment.
There's a metal barrier in front of me, and one of these days I'm going to start headbutting it and it's going to hurt because, as I posted on Twitter, it's Groundhog Day on crack. Fans are bored of being told things that quite simply aren't being played out in front of our eyes. The town's unbeaten start to the season at Kenilworth Road went up in smoke on Saturday afternoon when we lost 1-0 to Cardiff City in a game that we saw played out far too many times in a similar fashion last season. Alongside me to look back on an afternoon of, well, maybe it'll tell us a lot more than what we actually thought, is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, please don't let this be another season like the last one.
Well, more questions than answers at the moment, I suppose.
And we'll ask them and maybe answer one or two of them right after this intro. Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. This season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned prior to the intro, we're going to look back on Luton Town 0, Cardiff City 1, Saturday afternoon at Kenilworth Road. We're obviously doing this on Monday night so that we bypass the bank holiday. So, Jimbo, we've had an extra 24 hours to reflect on where we were and where we are. And obviously, I made my feelings fairly clear in my worries on Saturday when I did the instant reaction that after a summer of being told that we were going to learn plenty from last season, the signs of Saturday would suggest that we've not learnt nearly as much as we needed to.
Yeah, it seemed that way, isn't it? It's a very difficult circumstance at the moment because I always believed, you see where you are after 10 games of the season, but when you're seeing similar things happen this season as they did in the last season, and the way the last two seasons have gone, you can see why people are questioning the system as one, strikers that haven't scored yet, another. I mean, there's caveats to all of them, I suppose, that some of them aren't up to full fitness and they haven't, played that much together. But I guess that's what pre-season's for. So
but that in itself is another issue that we had last season. Strikers not scoring goals, and now we've got strikers not scoring goals. One of the reasons why, and we mentioned this plenty of times on this podcast last season, this formation, it doesn't allow enough players to get into the box. Therefore, when we are in the box, and creating chances on Saturday was not an issue. 23 shots, that's as many as we've had in a long, long time. 7 shots on target. Okay, they weren't all at close range. In fact, none of those chances were inside the 6-yard box, which I'm guessing was where Matt wants his chances to be by all of the talk that he keeps on giving us, dangerous chances rather than volume of chances, overloads and all of the other attacking stuff that he talks about. But it's the same thing. We've changed the players. We've changed the manager. There's only one thing we've not changed on the pitch, and that's the system. But we're still seeing the same results with different players, with a different manager.
Yeah, and that's why everyone's frustrated. You can understand it. You didn't want to talk about the system. You didn't want to have to be discussing 3 at the back, although people are calling it 5 at the back, aren't they? Because that's what they're seeing. And in the terms of you're saying they're not getting forward enough, not getting enough body forward, it feels like 5 at the back. You can play that if you've got the wing backs to do it. Alfie Doughton is Pomp, obviously, but he's not here. And so if they're not here and other players aren't up to speed, it would make sense, I think, to most people to play a different system to fit the players that are currently there although this is the argument, isn't it? Because he's saying he's playing the 3 or 5 at the back, however you like to see it, to fit the players that they've currently got. But it doesn't seem, the evidence of that doesn't seem to be coming to fruition so far.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see exactly who we're playing this system for. I suspect we're playing this system for one person right now and one person only, and that's Naismith, who 6 league games ago couldn't get a start in our biggest league game for 2 years. It just strikes me as not mixed messages, because the messages are probably right, but it just strikes me as wrong thinking, really, because how long do we have to be beaten in the same fashion before someone thinks something needs to change here? Now, Matt Bloomfield, much in the way that Rob Edwards wasn't, Matt Bloomfield is not a stupid individual. He's not. He's been in football all his life. He's played in the centre of the park. He's played at this level all of his life. He knows what it's all about. But if Man United can't play this system, having spent the better part of £500 million in the summer and look no real better, how are Luton Town expected to, with some journeyman additions, some brighter young prospects, one of which, Jake Richards, where's he gone? You know, we were excited that he was going to replace Tello Asgard when he signed. Nowhere to be seen, not even being on the bench. As I said in the instant reaction, and we've kind of alluded to already in this, there's an awful lot too much of carrying over from last season about what we've done so far. When we've won games, we've not necessarily looked fluent. There was a lot of that last season. God knows how many times we've started seasons badly. Forget the results. Yes, it's great that we won 3 of those first 4 games, but the performances were no good, really. We're hearing the same lines. We've got to build up to speed. We've got players coming in late after pre-season and all this that we've heard for the last 2 seasons. I reiterate what I've said. We were told, in amongst all of that talk after we got relegated, that we're going to go back to the Luton way. We're going to learn from the last time we were in this league and make sure it doesn't happen again. I'm not seeing evidence of either of that, Jimbo. Now, you can't say these things and then not activate it. And yeah, okay, absolutely, people can come at me and say it's only 5 games, and that is right, it's only 5 games. But it was only 5 games last season, and then it was only 10 games last season, and we were very much guilty of this. It was only 15 games last season, only 20 goals. We're in a relegation battle. And yeah, it's only 5 games, but what's stopping it only being 10 games? You know, okay, we've got Burton on Saturday, which on paper is one of the fixtures that you'd expect us to win by virtue of where they finished last season. But then it becomes sort of Plymouth, Huddersfield looming on the horizon. If that game goes ahead, it might not do because of international break. But I mentioned at the start of this season, we had a kind fixture list and we had to hit the ground running. Well, yeah, okay, 3 wins we have done, but performance-wise, we haven't done it. And there are a lot of people out there that are getting worried. We know there are, because they've reacted to the instant reaction that I put out. And I think that they've got every right to be worried, Jimbo, because I've tried not to go down this route, but the people who are telling me, and there are loads of you, and you know, you're more than entitled to your opinion, that's why I don't criticise it, that are telling me that Matt Bloomfield's only ever been Rob Edwards Mark II. Well, everything I saw on Saturday, it's so hard to disagree with that.
Yeah, well, I can understand those viewpoints. If I have to play Mr. Devil's Advocate just to put the other side of it, I suppose you could look at the 10 of the last 11 games of the last season where, yeah, it wasn't pretty, but they got results, and the results they got were the 3rd best in the Championship for that period of games, behind the 2 teams that got promoted, Leeds and Burnley. So there's that element of it. I think with the system, if you want to play that way, fine. But if the players aren't available yet to play it, like Izzy Jones you're not going to see him until probably back end of October, maybe. He could play that system, I guess, but he's not going to be there. So play a different way. If you like the 5 at the back or the 3 at the back, however you see it, that's fine. But if it doesn't work and you can see it's not working, there's got to be a plan B and change it, hasn't it? Because that has happened. I can't remember the games that you've spoken about it, but you go to the back 4 and then suddenly Luton look a bit better. I think that's another thing that people would want to see, you know, because the system doesn't feel like it is working. And when you've got performances not matching up to what people expect, which is what we've seen, then they are getting frustrated with it because if you look at the results wise, I think we're only 1 point either way of where we were at this stage in the League One title winning season as a start. But we'd just come up from League Two then, didn't it? So it's a different circumstance with bookies' favourites at the beginning of the season. Everybody of a Luton persuasion thinks that Luton should be going back up. And at the moment, it looks like 11th in the table probably is going to be the marker. Now, things can change. But at the moment, I understand what people are saying. And I think that that's where the frustration and worry would be. Worry probably the most that it's just going to be another season of, frustration, really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And you're absolutely right to play the devil's advocate role. And you're right.
I don't want to be Mr. Devil's advocate, by the way. It's just like, but I think that there are sort of, I think if you're at the club and you're trying to get this team working and see what works, you will look at all those aspects, won't you? And you'll see 3 results, 3 victories when not playing particularly well. And when that happens, you go, well, that's a sign of a good team. If you're not playing well, you score goals and you win, that's fine. But then you don't, like on Saturday. And I think, it may not have been fluent and everything, but the chances were created and they're not being taken. It's not like there was no clue whatsoever happening there. It just still doesn't feel cohesive.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. Yeah, as I said right at the start, we created 23 shots on goal. Okay, some of them are wild shots on goal and things like that. And maybe that's why Matt does use things like XG as a sounding point for the quality of chances rather than the quantity of chances. Well, Cardiff had a higher XG than Luton on Luton's home patch. I go back to we're hearing that we're going to go back to being Luton. Well, being Luton's being nuggety, hard, annoying, feisty. Kenilworth Road being a fortress. I mean, there was that stat that was doing the rounds that we hadn't lost at home in League One since 2008. I mean, the fact that we'd only played 1 season in it's neither here nor there, but that was the thing, wasn't it? That season, we went unbeaten at home. This season, we've played 3 home games, and but for Josh Kearley, we've lost 2 of them, and we're nowhere near the Luton way. I mean, if I said to you, Jimbo, what's Luton's style of play as of today? Could you give me one? Because another one of the reasons, why people are starting to get a little bit concerned now is they watched Cardiff in March, an absolute horrendous abomination of a football team when we went down there. Hey, we were no better, but we got the job done. But now you watched them in August, 5 months later. They were playing the ball lovely. They were passing it. They were moving it. They were a really fluid football team, completely the opposite to what they were down there at that time. But we're not. We're very, very similar. And as I said, you could quite clearly see Cardiff's identity on Saturday. And this is a Cardiff side whose best striker sat on a bench for 75 minutes. The geezer who we flagged up, Callum Chambers, who did all the shooting, sat on a bench until they went 1-0 up. And then they obviously came on to shore up their defence a little bit. They're clearly a side that has progressed on the pitch in terms of its style of play. I couldn't, hand on heart, give you what Luton's style of play is meant to be. We're hearing that we want to be this attacking, entertaining, fluid, fast-moving football team. Not overly sure we can tick any of those boxes right now.
Well, no, it's a cross in the comparison column, really, isn't it? Because I think everybody viewed this match as a marker for where this current Luton side is. And if you play like that against a Cardiff side who were abjectly terrible last season, and hey, Luton were much better because they both got relegated, but they were comfortably relegated and weren't very good. And they've changed their manager. A lot of young academy players that have come through. There's a definite more cohesive style that you could say that they have. So I get on that front. I think it is another one in the worry box for people because you're seeing the summer of change that's happened with Cardiff and not yet with Luton. I don't think anyone's got an answer to that other than what the hell's going on.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, we're hearing that it's a new team, and that's right, it is a new team, but Bradford only started 2 players that started in the last game of last season. I think someone told me Wigan started 3 that started in the last game of last season. I'd not had a chance to check with Cardiff, but I know full well that Salek started and that Chambers started, and they were both on the bench, and there were a lot of names in that team, Colwell aside, that I didn't recognise. So there are a lot of new players there. We're all new teams. That is the nature of the transfer window beast. But they all seem to be playing their style a lot quicker than what we are. I mean, I remember sitting, well, not here because we're obviously in Marsh House now, and I'm grateful for it. I remember sitting in the Barber Club, and I said to you when we was in there in one of the summer podcasts that we did, my fear is, and I can remember myself saying it, my fear is we are not playing enough pre-season friendlies here, Jimbo. We played 5 of them. We played Boreham Wood. No one was going to get more than 45 minutes of Boreham Wood. You never do in the first game. That's absolutely fine. We went to Slovenia and played a pub team for a couple of hours. Absolutely played them off the park, but what did we learn from that? We came back and we played Gillingham, Southend. Obviously, Southend 1 was unfortunate because of the injury to Ted and Mengi, and Tottenham. That's 5 friendlies. Tottenham, on the day that we played Tottenham, played 2 in the same day. You know, I don't see how you can possibly expect to be ready to go for a 46-game season when you only have 5 pre-season friendlies, of which the first one, no one is getting more than 45 minutes. Why don't we do what Tottenham do or other teams do? Because we've got a big enough squad whilst we're using the under-21s out in Slovenia and everything else. Why don't we arrange 2 friendlies on the same day? That doesn't need to be at both in a pre-season friendly. It's only largely to get your fitness and everything. Matt could do one and his assistant can do another, like Thomas Frank and his assistant did on that day. And why aren't we up to speed and ready to start the season on the 1st of August? It's only Jerry Yates and Cohen Bramall who have come in to this football club since that Tottenham friendly. In fact, I think I could also say since the Gillingham friendly, because it was the day of the Gillingham friendly that Josh Keeley was announced as a signing. It's only those 2. Well, Bramall hasn't started many league games yet anyway, and Jerry Yates was thrown in straight after. The rest of them have all been here for a decent period of time that I would expect them to be up and running now. But the pace of our play on Saturday was so slow in comparison to the opposition, it was untrue. When we did get it to our live wire, Miliali, we often find that he's way too deep. But when he was in the areas where Miliali wants to be, he went past their 44 almost at will. He went outside, he went inside, and let me tell you, that 44 is going to be a candidate for team of the season, that right back. He looked really, really good. But then, as I said in the instant reaction, he does that, he creates something good, then you look up and he's on the edge of our penalty box again. And, you know, there's a metal barrier in front of me, and one of these days I'm going to start headbutting it and it's going to hurt, because you just see the same thing over. It's, as I posted on Twitter, it's Groundhog Day on crack.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to see Miliali defending, really, and that's the main thing.
They want to see Miliali defending. Cardiff, they want it. As soon as Miliali tracks back to join our back 5, like people are saying that it is, and you would say it is, because Nigel Longwake can't go forward. He gets a nosebleed when he goes past the halfway line. I'm not criticising him. He's a centre-back. Centre-backs don't go past halfway line apart from for set pieces. But that's exactly where Cardiff want Miliali, and Cardiff are comfortable when Miliali's there. Cardiff weren't comfortable on the occasions where we got him forward, but also, how many times do our midfielders get the ball in the centre of the park? They're crying for someone to give it to out wide, and our support strikers as well. They have to stand on the ball for 5 or 10 seconds because Millie's got, you know, he can't just click his fingers and suddenly he goes from A to B. You know, it doesn't suit anyone other than Cal Naismith, this system. And you couldn't even play Cal Naismith 6 league games ago. Or you didn't play him. You could have played him. You didn't play him. And
and that's sometimes what you get if you're a captain. You just play even if you're not on form, or, well, I'm not saying that about Cal Naismith, I suppose.
But you can do, because his form is an absolute major concern. It is, you know. Bradford, the very first thing he did, we were on about keeping the crowd quiet. The first thing he did was head a ball down that was supposedly meant to go to the left wing back. I forget who we started left wing. Longwake. Got nowhere near him, went straight to the striker who got a shot on goal away. And from there, the crowd were up and away and gone. Tuesday night, in injury time, he loses the ball, doesn't he? And Liam Walsh has to bail him out on the edge of our box. Otherwise, Geezer's going through on goal. Saturday, he dallies with the ball on the halfway line. Colwell goes through, and, you know, if he had an end product, it would have been 2-0. His form is a concern. There's no doubt about that. He definitely hasn't hit the ground running. But his best performance in a Luton shirt since he come back was at Derby. Well, he was nowhere near the defence there. He played alongside, I think it was alongside Liam Walsh, as one of the double pivots that afternoon. Well, maybe we have to look at going back to that if we want to play a back four, because it's just not working. It's not working.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things I was going to come to, that you say you can't play a back four, or that the back three / back five suits the players you've got. But if it's not working, then what can you do? And that would be one option, that he can come in and play, central defensive midfield, and you go to a back four. That solves that issue, doesn't it? And I think, he has played well there. I'd be comfortable with that. So that's another option. I don't think that there's not the players in the team that you can't go to a back four, and the players not know a back four. I think that's what most people grow up with, playing football, back four, and they would understand it. And on the occasions it's been forced on this team, this season and last, so it's not all Bloomfield, it looked a lot better and a lot more fluid. So that would be an option, wouldn't it? And I'd be happy with that. You just want to see a realization that, it's not clicking, and maybe you see that that's a formation that can play. You can play with a full strength side. We've not got that in the moment. Players coming back, players still out, blah blah blah. So I just want a little bit of fluidity and a bit of change there, because we know he's played 3-4-3 at Wickham, hasn't he? But he has talked as well since the game that, change of formation will be under consideration. So I think people will want to see a nod to that in some shape or fashion, and that would be one thing. One of the other points, just to come back to it, that you were talking about pre-season. I mean, we did actually say in pre-season, you raised the amount of games early on, so that's fair. But we did also say they looked fitter and stuff. So are you talking style of play?
Yeah,
really?
This isn't a fitness issue. We're not conceding late goals or anything like that. This is it, isn't it? Players who don't really know where each other are on the football pitch right now. And how do you get to know that? Well, play football matches. That's what we're hearing now, isn't it? We've got to play football matches for the players to get up to speed with each other. Well, that's when you should have played football matches in pre-season, even if they were behind closed doors. And I think I missed a behind closed doors one out when I went through that list. But even if they're behind closed doors, that's absolutely fine. But ultimately, there's 2 players that come into this football club this calendar month, August. The rest of them were all here in July. We should not be as clunky as what we are now, but we are as clunky as we are. And 1 or 2 injuries, and it is only 1 or 2 injuries really from a potential starting 11. You've mentioned Izzy Jones, and then the left wing back / left back is the other option, and I've done that one to death after the Bradford game. I don't need to keep on repeating myself, but if we're playing a formation to suit individual players, which we have to be because it's not a combined cumulative thing. If we're playing a formation to suit individual players, I would much rather play a formation that suits Millie Ali, Nicky Wells et al. Than Cal Naismith. And now that's nothing against Cal Naismith, but Millie Ali and Nicky Wells are going to win us a hell of a lot more football matches than what Cal Naismith's going to win us, because he's got 2 other mates alongside him. Whereas those 2, if we're going to score the goals, by and large, they're going to be involved somewhere along the line, whether it's setting them up in Nicky Wells' case with the 2 that he set up this season, or whether it's scoring them in Millie Ali's case towards the end of last season. That's what's going to win us football matches, not a system that Cal Naismith can play.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I think what you don't want to do is hamstring one of your probably liveliest attackers, and that would be Millie Ali. I think you have to reassess and go that's not a useful spend of his time. You want him going forward, because when he does, he scares the life out of people. I think you could probably still say, his final ball or sometimes his decision making isn't top notch, but he was playing in this division last season. He only got half a season's worth of games in the Championship, so that's still to come. Hopefully he can improve it, but he's not going to improve it. But if he's running back and focusing on whether he can defend, because clearly he can't, because he had got taken off the game before. He was on a yellow card and he looked like he was going to get another one. So that doesn't scream to me Millie Ali can fit in here, so we can just play our formation. I think the formation is obviously the big issue, and I don't think that's reinventing the wheel. I think everybody can see that.
Yep. 3 changes were on the team sheet on Saturday. Out went Cohen Bramall, disappointing. Out went Gideon Kadua, even more disappointing. And out went Jerry Yates, which was just as disappointing, probably. I think Lasse Nordos, I think if you're within the camp, I think you're well within your rights to start Lasse Nordos from the Coventry game and the cameo against Wigan. Obviously, we're talking in hindsight, and he's missed a golden chance, and it's unfortunate, but I think that's justified. Thankfully, Nicky Wells was good enough to start the game, so he was always going straight back into the side. And that kind of left us where we were, really. And obviously, Christian Makosso was going straight back into the side as well. And it looked like he'd missed 3 games in the first 45 minutes because, I mean, he was caught out of position loads. Listen, he wasn't the only one. But ultimately, this still comes down to us not finishing our chances. And you're right, whatever formation we play, that's on the individuals, not the manager. But Nicky Wells has got to score, hasn't he? 15 minutes in, he scores that. We go 1-0 up. Maybe a team who, from last season, aren't winning many games of football, albeit they've started this season well. Maybe then they kind of revert to type of last season. But the more chances we missed, the sort of happier that they got and more confident that they got. And really, for the rest of the first half, when you look at the momentum chart that I regularly talk about in games, it's mostly blue than orange. I mean, there are flashes of orange where it was literally flashes from us, where we actually got Millie Ali forward and things like that. But they missed a 3-on-1 almost straight after that Welsh chance. I've no idea how I don't even think they got a shot away in that 3-on-1, let alone missed it. And then they had that unbelievable attempt from Callum Robinson on the halfway line, which again, we've given the ball straight to him to put the ball, well, over Josh Keeley, but I suspect he's had that done to him before because he was kind of composed going back. Sometimes you see these goalkeepers that get lobbed, they're panicking and they kind of trip themselves over because they're trying to get back too quickly. He was good, pushed it around the post, and that was absolutely fine. Then we had the one that McGuinness nearly put into his own goal. That would have been mightily annoying against his former club, wouldn't it? And then at the other end, to be fair to their keeper, someone told me he had a worldie. I mean, he's made 3 genuine saves, which he's allowed to do, but that's 3 more than we want him to do. The save from Saville is absolutely out of this world. I mean, that's in for all money, 30-yard pile driver. I mean, that was obviously a rangefinder on Tuesday night because he found his range at the Oak Road into the Kenilworth end on Saturday. And then...
although I would say on that one, because it is a stinger of a shot, it's a nice height and it's come from a million miles away. A keeper should be saving that, regardless of how powerful the shot was. I think that's a reasonable save.
Absolutely. If we're calling that one of our best chances, then we're in trouble. I don't think we are, to be fair. The best chance of the first half fell to Lasse Nordos, and unfortunately he connected with his hip rather than his foot, and the goalkeeper made a save that looked a bit more dramatic than I think it was. And
but again, I think that one's reasonable because it doesn't go at him. There's no velocity that it's going to get past the keeper.
No, that's it.
I think that's a reasonable height. Again, I think I wouldn't call it a worldie save.
No, exactly. I mean, I'd have expected him to make that save. I'd have expected my striker to put his foot on it rather than his hip. But this is where we're at, isn't it? We're already into the snatching at chances because people are worried that we're not going to get many of them because we haven't had many of them in the first 4 games. We're snatching at chances. Go back 2 seasons in the Premier League. Barely had a shot at goal in the first 5 or 6. Ball fell to Eli right in front of goal against Tottenham. He snatched at it, he missed, and we all know what happened from there. We're in exactly the same position, albeit 2 divisions lower now. Same strikers in the same position. Different strikers in the same positions, snatching at the same chances because they're worried that we're not creating enough, and they have to put it not we need to score this, we have to score this, and they're trying to do too much with it, and they're missing. And go back to what I said 20 minutes ago. What have Luton Town learnt over the last year? Let's forget the Premier League. That's just just how it was. What have we learnt on August the 25th this year that we weren't doing on August the 25th last year? And I'm not sure I can list too much, Jimbo. I'm not.
Well, no, on the goal scoring front particularly, this was an ongoing conversation we had with Edwards and Bloomfield, about how can you score more goals when you create chances and you're not putting them away? There was that phenomenal stat of Eli and the amount of big chances he'd missed. It was like 23 or something before he got injured. And, what could a manager do at that point? If you created play to fashion chances and they're there and you missed them, the Wales one, the first chance that Wales had of a man of his calibre, you expect him to put a little bend on that, stick it in the bottom corner, and it doesn't happen. I'm at a loss to how you can describe or change that, because you're doing all the right things to get up there, but it kind of feels like the striker department is cursed at the moment.
It does, yeah. I think one thing we could have done at half time was change. Yeah, it was 0-0, and yeah, we'd had shots on target, but I have to be honest. I think Cardiff were more likely to score in that first half than what we were. And let's be honest, that's 2 home games on the trot now, that if Josh Kearley wasn't as good as he was, we'd have been in more trouble than what we were. Liam Walsh is a mighty fine footballer. We love him. We love what he does on the football. And you're all entitled to a shocker from time to time. And he had the mother of all shockers on Saturday. I don't know if he thought he was still in Bradford passing to blue shirts, but he passed to a lot of blue shirts. At half-time, he just had to come off the football pitch. I'm sorry, mate, it's not your day. We'll save you for next Saturday, and we'll try something else, because eventually you're going to give the ball away and it's going to hurt us. And eventually he gave the ball away and it hurt us. If we'd done a full preview, we'd have mentioned Chris Willock, because he killed us every time he played for QPR against us. And I remember we mentioned him last season. We didn't do a full preview. We didn't mention him. We just mentioned the other ones. But when it fell to his feet, when he pickpocketed Walsh and he sent Mark McGuinness for a hot dog, you knew where it was finishing. And that's exactly where it went. Bottom corner. You just can't give quality players. And listen, we think we've got players that are too good for League One. He's way too good for League One. Can't give him that time. He's going to put it in the bottom corner, and he did.
Yeah, he did. And what he showed that what Luton didn't was composure. That's the word, isn't it? But how do you give Luton strikers composure? Because the Wells one that I've mentioned was a great chance that he probably bags like 9 times out of 10. And it's not that it was even close, was it? It was 2 or 3 yards wide. And he chose that. I mean, he had to do some good skill as well to fashion the space to put it in. And doesn't feel like that's in the locker at the moment at Luton. And that is obviously a worry. Now, obviously, that being said, we've got still some time before that transfer window slams shut. And I think that reinforcements are needed. But they've got all the players, senior players they're allowed, so they're going to have to let others go. I know there was talk of Woodrow because he wasn't involved. You would imagine that might be one. But then you've got to try and get someone in. But then it all kind of feels a bit lastminute.com, doesn't it? Because, why hadn't some of the players been got in before? But I think Matt Bloomfield has also explained that in the sort of the Doughty situation. You didn't know he was going to go, so you couldn't get someone in. But I think, as we all thought that Doughty would go. So why not get somebody in? And also, because Bramwell came in he's basically coming to replace him, why not get him in at the start of the pre-season? At least for backup, because Doughty hadn't played for months and months and months because of his injury, and he's injured again now, isn't he, for Millwall, as backup. So, if you're looking at that situation and going, I don't really agree with what's being said, then I think you're well within your rights to.
Yeah, you wasn't on the Bradford Review podcast, was you? But I made exactly that point. And there are people, because of that situation, that think they're being fobbed off, and it's hard to disagree with that. It is. I mean, one thing I've always attributed to Matt is that his substitutions are reactive at the right times and positive. It's another box that you can't really put a tick next to on Saturday, because the Liam Walsh substitution, when it came far too late. He'd already been involved in the goal. And listen, it was obviously going to happen. The bloke was passing with a passing success rate of 63%. So 3 in every 8 passes that he made went to an opposition shirt. And, you can't do that at any level, let alone this level.
I think that if you're looking at that and scratching your head, I think, again, you're justified, because if you look at the Bradford game, when he sees Miliali on a yellow card and he comes off because he looks like he's going to get another one. The same with Nigel Longwake, wasn't it? In that same game, he comes off. So that's proactive substitutions or changes, isn't it? And then if you see, Walsh playing, having a shock of it by his standards. And again, we'll say we liked him. Go back to the previous podcast, we were talking him up as fantastic player on the ball. That's going to happen sometimes, and that's what happened. But then you're all sitting there at halftime going, well, we won't see him again. But then he comes out. So it's a consistency issue on that front.
It is, yeah. I've got to be honest, Jimbo, and I said it in the instant reaction. The reaction to the goal wasn't good. Okay, he finally made the Walsh substitution and took Saville off at the same time. Saville being on a yellow card. Took Saville off at the same time and brought Nelson and Baptiste on. There was still no intensity and no urgency to our play. And we've mentioned having no urgency to our play a lot last season. So again, it's another thing that fans are well within their rights to think that we've not learned from last season. Again, different manager and players not that are doing the same thing. I'll come on to the last sub in a minute because I've spent 2 and a bit days trying to work out what the hell that was all about, and I'm still flummoxed, so I'll get your opinion on that. But if anyone was going to score a second goal, or the second goal in the game, it was Cardiff, and it should have been Cardiff. As I mentioned earlier, Cal Naismith had his pocket picked on the halfway line by Ruben Colwill, who's comfortably the best player on the pitch. Every single time Cardiff got the ball, if he was marked, he'd find space and get the ball, and if he already had space, he'd do some damage with the ball. Really, really good footballer. If they keep hold of him, they'll be absolutely fine and certainly well in the top 6. Goes bearing down on goal. To be fair, Keeley goes and meets him again. This is one thing that we have actually learnt from. Let's not say we haven't learnt from anything. We've got someone between the sticks who's actually competent and kind of forced him to snatch his finish, and he snatched it wide. I mean, listen, if he's in a Luton shirt and he misses that, he's getting all sorts of criticism thrown at him, isn't he? But they won the game, so they'll be absolutely fine with it. And then we go into injury time. They'll have known that there were 5 minutes of injury time by this point because the fourth official's board was about to go up. And Cohen Bramall, who's been absolutely crying to bring Cohen Bramall on for 45 minutes and get Miliali up the pitch, comes on. That in itself, no bad thing. Lasse Nordos goes off. 1-0 down, about to enter injury time. I'm lost, Jimbo, I am. All I can think is it's a substitution that's either sending a message out to the board, which is probably pointless because I'm not convinced that they're going to listen, or it's a substitution of a manager who has either run out of ideas or is rapidly running out of ideas. Now, from those two options, I hope it's the former and not the latter. But I am worried. I am, because that substitution was just wrong. It's just, you're 1-0 down at home in a game that you haven't really been in. Surely you push more men forward, right? We are allowed to leave. We are allowed to lose one of these centre halves. We don't have to have every minute of every game with 3 centre halves on the pitch, and often more when we've been defending leads and things. I couldn't understand it. What happened, Jimbo? Why?
I haven't got an answer. I don't understand it. Listen, I'm baffled. So I'm the same with you.
Because, I mean, if you are making that sub, let's say Nordos is tired and he's got 5 more minutes to do and he hasn't got to do anything for the rest of the week because we haven't got another game. Surely then you'd bring Tom Holmes on and stick Mark McGuinness forward or Chris Makosso forward or something. It just didn't make any sense. And if you want Miliali to play through the middle, what's he going to do in 5 minutes of injury time? If you're doing that sub, give him 20 minutes through the middle or something. Look, he's nowhere near as effective through the middle as he is out wide. We saw it Tuesday night. I can't explain that one. I really can't. But that substitution of all the things that's worrying me, that is it, because that's just not a 1-0 down at home substitution, unless there's a message trying to be sent out there.
I don't know if I buy that. I mean, I understand it. I understand if people want to think that, but I don't know if I buy that. I don't know what useful sort of message that's going to be. Whereas, they would be behind the scenes conversations. Right, we've lost 2 of these games. This is how we lost them. We've not played well in pretty much most of them. This is what we need. and then go and get those players. Again, you're not going to get them unless you can get players out. So it's either going to be a very frenetic last week or maybe even the transfer deadline day, or this is it. I don't know which is the better.
Have to ruin a bank holiday in one foul swoop. Yeah, no, I don't believe that that's the case either. But they're the only two suggestions that I can come up with because it was that weird.
That is a theory, not one I subscribe to, I suppose.
Yeah, nor me neither. But you might as well not have bothered with the substitution at all for the impact that it had. Ali didn't touch the ball. I don't think Bramwell did either. And I don't know. It was weird. I don't want to see it again, though, Jimbo. I'll say that much because, like I've stressed over the last 40 minutes or so, people are worried. These aren't my worries. Not all of them, anyway. Some of them I am worried about. I mentioned the ones I was worried about in the instant reaction. But these are the worries of the people who are paying good money to watch this football team, and they're not being entertained. And people were angry at the end of the game. I was walking up the stairs towards the back of the Kenilworth end on my way out, as I normally do, and people were expressing their anger as the players were walking around. I didn't hang around and applaud them or anything like that. I'm not someone who will ever boo them, but, again, I've always supported the right for people to do that if that's how they feel that they can show their anger. The full-time whistle had gone by then. I've absolutely no problem with people expressing their views. I thought the support during the game was good. The one thing I would say is the cheering when Walsh went off, I didn't like. I don't like it. I hope that the cheering was, hooray, Matt's finally realised he's been really, really poor today and he's hooked him off, rather than hooray, Liam Walsh is going off.
Yeah, but how do you perceive that, and how does it come across? It comes across, it doesn't look good, doesn't sound good.
And we're better than that as a fan base. So, we really need to knock that on the head, particularly if it's the latter, that people were cheering that Liam Walsh has gone off, because he's going to win an awful lot more football matches, we hope, than he's going to cost us. That's for sure. And, yeah, their concerns are rife, Jimbo, because, the theme of the last 40-odd minutes, people are worried that we've not learnt from our mistakes, and they were mistakes. And they're not just worried that we've not learned from our mistakes, they were promised that we would learn from our mistakes. And it just, so far, it just hasn't happened. And you're absolutely right, it's August the 25th, it's not March the 25th. But what date does everything need to be hunky-dory by before we're okay? Because we're 11th in the table, can't keep on sliding too much longer if we want to keep tabs with what looks like a good Cardiff side, and if they keep all of their players in the next week, are going to be a good side. Huddersfield are now got a little bit of room between them and us. Stockport as well. These are the three teams that bookmakers had as the threats. They've got a little bit of ground on us. At which point, what is the date when when we should be up to speed by it and all this? I mean, the date was August the 1st, but clearly it isn't, and it never is, because we never play August very well. We're not quite as bad as Wolves, who I think I saw a stat saying they haven't won in August for 6 years, which is quite something, but they're playing their trade in Premier League in those 6 years, not League One and the Championship. But either way, these are similar themes. You go to Slovenia, you waste a week that you could be here and playing pre-season friendlies. You come out of the block sluggish. You get the same old lines. Oh, we're building up to speed. Oh, we'll be all right after such and such a time. I got it in the neck last season. Oh, we'll usually finish the seasons well. Well, yeah, that's fine. What about when we don't finish the season well? Oh, we get relegated like we have done last season. Are we in that situation again where we're relying on a good second half to the season? It's not good enough, I don't think, especially when people promise that we're going to learn from these issues. And I think supporters are well within their rights now to demand that we do learn. And one of the things that we can do to learn is this week being a huge week now. It's the last week of the transfer window. It doesn't close until, I think it's 9 p.m, I think they said on Monday. Usually it's 11 p.m, but obviously the FA want to go home a bit earlier, and they've cut it to 9 p.m. I'm sure it's 9 p.m. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I did read that. So we've basically got a week to do some movement. There's clearly going to be outs, because there's clearly people on too high wages that we can't have here. But there has to be ins. There has to be another left back. Because even if Bramwell was absolutely fantastic and the best thing since sliced bread when he's up to speed, whenever that's going to be, there is no backup to him. So we need a backup there. So there has to be some form of left back coming into the football club. I suspect there's going to have to be some fashion of right back coming in, even though we've got Izzy Jones and we've got Hakeem Adoff in and we've got Rue Walters, who I'm led to believe is only a couple of weeks or so away. Rue may even be fit for Saturday. Even if that's only a loan, we need because we can't keep playing Nigel Longwake there. I mean, he's a centre back. He's a pure out and out centre back, and there's two ins. Yeah, we probably do need to get players out, but there are a lot of players out that wouldn't be registered in our squad right now. Marvellous Nakamba would be one. I don't think we're ever going to see him in a Luton shirt again. He's played 45 minutes of an under-21 game in months. Tom Holmes was on the bench on Saturday, couldn't come on. I wonder if that means that he might be on his way out. Obviously, finished last season out on loan in Belgium. That would be another obvious one. We keep hearing Tahith Chong's back on the grass and things like that, but wages have got to be pretty high given that he was our first or one of our first Premier League signings. Would be another one. Hasn't really been involved in Matt Bloomfield's squads. And yeah, lots of ins and outs to come, I think, mate. So I think this is going to be, and I hope this is going to be a busy and productive week off the pitch.
Yeah, well, I think it almost dictates it has to be. But I mean, when that was needed in January, I suppose they came up with the signings that they thought that might keep them in, and very nearly did. So, we'll hope that would be the case. But yeah, I think you've got to have reinforcements in those areas that you've spoken about. And maybe that allows you to play different formations or try them out and be flexible with it, because, like we say, it's that isn't working currently. So, yeah, I think that the final days of the window are going to be massive, really, and I think that might help to allay some concerns, but it's not going to be everything. You've got to go on the pitch and start playing better, I think, is the main thing, isn't it? And I know that's what they're trying to aim for. And he's talking about performances. He talked about this last season. Performances lead to results. And, in most cases it does. Not all the time. It's football, isn't it? It's unpredictable, but we're not getting those performances at the moment. And, yeah, if you're comparing all over, which you do, and even though comparison's the thief of joy most of the time, you're comparing against Cardiff, aren't you? And they've changed. You're comparing against Bradford, who've come up. They played a lot of new players that weren't in last season, and they won. But you also look at the other games where, you can say, okay, a fluke own goal against Wimbledon. You do look back on these games with hindsight. At the time, you just got to say, we've won a game, luckily, but, that's how it goes. But it all goes into the melting pot when a defeat happens. And that's where we are at this point. Now, you've got a week to change this and address it. So I think if you see a team sheet and it isn't, I think most people would be concerned again. But you see changes, you see players that couldn't play this time or couldn't start this time, Kadua, for instance, Kader, then there's a bit more optimism, isn't there? We'll see.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, obviously, we'll cover what we think the team will be, or what we hope the team will be in the Burton preview that we'll have out to you later this week. But I mean, the only good thing if we play back five on Saturday is it's the land of the Brewers, isn't it? So we can all go and get pissed because you're right. I don't think anyone now has any faith in three at the back. Whoever the three at the back are, don't think anyone has faith. I mean, we were complimentary about the defence in the first two games, and that's fine. That's what we saw with our own eyes in front of us in those two games. But Wimbledon didn't really. I mean, they came with a defence but not an attack, and Peterborough they're nothing like what we thought they might be in terms of, I think they've got 2 points from 5 games. One of those in the 90th minute against Bradford at the weekend. And then in the other 3 games, I mean, Bradford could have had 3, 4, 5, but for Josh Keeley. Wigan could have had 2, 3, 4, but for Josh Keeley. And Cardiff on Saturday have 2 or 3, but for Josh Keeley as well. It's not like this formation is making the defence better. Of course, I'm not saying for 1 minute that it's like it was towards the back end of the Rob days where we were conceding 5s and 4s every time we left Kenilworth Road. I'm not saying it's that. But by the same token, we're still largely going to have to score 2 goals to win a game the way we're defending at the moment. And we're struggling to score 1 goal a game, let alone 2 goals a game. And we're going to have to win more games than we lose. Something's got to change. Would you like a striker to come in?
Obviously, and there's one that's still being linked, isn't there? But I don't know if he'd drop down that much and whether the cost of him would be too much. But I think if you're looking at the 5 games so far and really assessing it, is it just money you've got to spend? It's there, presumably. Enough is there to buy players. We've spent, according to the BBC report, 7 figures on Jerry Yates, and his goal return in the last time in the division was pretty good. But do you need something else? And the one we're all looking at, the one that we've been linked with 2-3 times this summer window is Al-Hamadi at Ipswich, who is power and pace, isn't he? What did you not have at the weekend? Well, mainly because Amelie Ali wasn't allowed to do that part, but that's probably what you need, isn't it? That way, Jerry Yates could be the man in the middle. Ali and Al-Hamadi either side, presumably, and you've got a decent front 3 attacking. Now, they still have to score goals, and that's not happened, but of course people are going to be looking at that. Got more than enough defenders to play both formations. Not particularly well at the moment, but both formations, or 4 or 5. Yeah, you've got more than enough centre-backs, really, is to just pick the 2 you want to play in a 4, which is what I think we're advocating. So don't worry about that. It's the full-back or wing-back, what you want to play, positions where you need some backup.
Yeah, it's the full-back options, of course, but ultimately, you're allowed to outscore the opposition, aren't you? And it's not like we're keeping clean sheets at will. I know we kept clean sheets in the first 2 games. Again, you and I could have kept a clean sheet in the first one. And by and large, we could have kept a clean sheet in the second one, although I might have ducked out of the way of that shot that Keeley palmed away, to be fair. But, we've got God knows how many central midfielders at the club, yet we're playing 2 central midfielders. Go figure. We have got enough attackers. We've got, if you include Nordos as a first teamer that's ready and going to play in most games, we've got Wells, we've got Yates, we've got Nordos to play the central role. Okay, yeah, one more would be absolutely fantastic, because then you wouldn't have to rely on Nordos, who's a man who's gone beyond Eli's need of a goal, hasn't he? He seriously needs a goal, as you could see with that finish on Saturday in the second half, when he done everything right, got through on goal and basically passed it back to the keeper rather than put his foot through it. We've got the wide players. Kadir can play wide right, Ali can play wide left, and we can have a right good go at teams. But for some reason, this football club seems to be safe. It seems to be scared of taking risks. It seems to be everything that we were on the way up under Nathan. And listen, I've voiced my opinions on Nathan left, right, and centre, but I'd much rather have a Nathan Jones's sort of up and atom approach than this scared to do anything approach that involves, and it was the same case again on Saturday, 2 or 3 passes forward. That's in the rare occasions on Saturday that we could do 2 or 3 passes, and then it goes backwards. And it's the same protagonists that go backwards. I flagged it last season. The people who were here before January were so obvious, even if you didn't know they were here before January, because their first approach was backwards or safety first. And the ones that came in January, their first approach was let's go forward. And if I can't go forward, then we'll have to go backwards. And it's similar now. Nothing has changed. We need to take some risks. We need to take some risks for a few reasons, Jimbo, because first of all, you're not going to get promoted in a safety first approach, right? And surely that's what we all want. We all want to be promoted, right? I know everyone's like saying that Power Court's 2 years away and all this, that and the other, but surely they want to be as high up in the pyramid as possible for when Power Court's here, to get as many people in on the first day as is possible. And the other reason why we need to take risks, people pay good money to watch this football team. The very least you can do is entertain it. rather than even when you win, we're not really entertained, but we're content with it because we've won the game of football. And then we sit here, you and I sit here, and we're okay. We dress up a win because it is a win with the kind of hope that, well, the next game will be better. Well, which next game is better? Because yeah, absolutely. In terms of chances created on Saturday, it really, really was. But the reason why we're not winning games of football all boil down to the same thing that's been the case for 18 months and more. And it just comes back to that message, doesn't it? People, the club is saying they're being transparent. Well, that's one of the pieces of transparent communication that came our way, that we're going to be Luton and learn from our mistakes. Well, we're not Luton. We're absolutely not Luton. I asked you earlier what our style is and everything. Well, no one knows. At least under Nathan, you knew if we got 40% of the ball, by and large, we were going to win the game of football. 39% of the ball at home on Saturday.
Well, we've got a long time playing but without the ball, and then Edwards, after promotion, tried to change that way of playing. I've said numerous times this season I couldn't care less if we would stunk the place out but 1-0 every time. It's about getting out the division, but I understand that won't placate a lot of people because they want to see Luton steamrolling teams. And that's been the case forever, really.
I don't think they do, Jimbo. I just think they want to go to Kenilworth Road, enjoy what they're watching, and win the game. I don't think people are going to these games of football wanting to win 5-0. Of course, we'd love it, but we just want to see a team that goes forward. Not every 3 movements goes backwards. A team that goes forward, a team that has some entertaining footballers in it that can excite us, that can get on the edge of our seats. Every time Millie Ali gets the ball, I still wander towards the edge of my seat because I think something's going to happen. Even when he gets the ball on the edge of our penalty box, which is far too deep. You want to see a few more of that. Obviously, we had it with Tello Asgard last season, and unfortunately, he's not here now. He needs replacing. Sometimes I see it from Jordan Clark, but he's gone into a safety-first approach in recent times as well. Really, other than that, though, apart from when Gideon Kadir plays or an academy product in Zach Nelson plays, what is there to get Luton fans off their feet right now?
Well, yeah, maybe those are the answers then. If you look at Cardiff, and if you're going to compare, since that's the most recent game, and they brought through academy products or younger players to have that no fear attitude, and maybe that we haven't seen Zach Nelson a lot so far, and I thought, from the words that were coming out of the camp, that this was going to be a big season for him. It can't be a big season playing 10, 15 minutes here or there. So, yeah, maybe that is an option, I think. But would Luton fans, maybe ask the people out there, would you get behind that if it wasn't particularly fluid, but it's a change and it's one of your own? Would that work?
It's not fluid now, Jimbo. That's the point, isn't it? There is nothing there. I mean, Nakeem Wells should be an entertaining footballer, right? He should. Jerry Yates should be an entertaining footballer, but they're shackled. And that's all fans want. They want to enjoy. I mean, listen, Luton's, more than anyone, because you're born and bred in the town, you're still in the town and everything else. I've obviously moved to the outskirts of it. Luton is a hard-working town. We work hard 9 till 5 Monday to Friday to go and watch our football team on a Saturday and forget the troubles, and there are many troubles now in the world, the troubles of the world and the troubles of the stresses and strains of life, just to forget them for a couple of hours and really let our hair down and enjoy watching our football team. When was the last time really people really enjoyed watching their football team in a consistent basis? Not since Ross Barkley left this building.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and that's probably adding to the concern, isn't it? That 2 years of relegated football is going to leave scars, and it has. And every time a result doesn't go away or performances are pretty bad, they get revealed a little bit more, get scratched a little bit, and they come to the fore. That's perfectly understandable. Somehow we've got to try and battle our way out of that mindset, and that is everybody. That's probably even the players that are still here that are playing safe that you just mentioned. That's probably quite a big job, actually, that I don't know if many talk about it enough, because I think it will still hang around.
In which case, I worry for us this season. I do. I still think on paper this is it's definitely a top 6 football team. Even with the weaknesses of the formation and everything else. That 11 that started the game on Saturday, even with 2 square pegs in round holes, that 11 should be good enough to win more games than it loses. Listen, Cardiff are a different entity and they may well be top 2 this season based on that. If they keep all of their players in this window, and presumably being young players, they're only going to get stronger and stuff like that. That's their problem, not ours. But maybe that's another thing that's causing this malaise in the fan base, that we can see now that there's a second season in League One staring us in the face, or starting to stare us in the face, and they don't like it. And they're quite right not to like it, because we were only in the Division 1 time round when we came from the bottom of it upwards. So to be in it a second time going in the opposite direction with all the financial windfalls that you get, and I understand people's frustrations and why they keep on using the finances. Look, I think we all know, even though we've not been told, that Power Court's costing a hell of a lot more than what was originally the case. I don't get why people are not being told that, but I think you and I know how football works. No one's told us it, but you and I know how football works, that must be the case, because nothing's getting really reinvested into the football team when you consider that Tello Asgard went for what we were told was a profit, or certainly not a loss, and when we signed him, the talk was that we'd signed him for 3 million quid. So let's say we made our money back, so 3 million quid on him. All of the rumours that were doing the rounds, and again, these are reputable journalists, Pete O'Rourke and the like, that telling us that Alfie Doughty went for 3 million quid. That's 6 million quid on 2 players. We haven't spent 6 million quid in the transfer window. So, and that's before we worry about all of the other ones that left, Thomas Kaminski and, all of these that we don't actually know the fees for and things. If some of that money's not reinvested, and yes, 1 million went on Yates, and yes, we're led to believe 1 million went on Josh Kearley, so that's 2 million of it, then, fans are going to start getting more and more restless, if the performances don't improve. And, I'm not in that boat yet. I'm really not in that boat, but there are a lot out there now who have seen enough of Bloomfield, and he's going to have a hard time winning them round, Jimbo. The people that are around me that I'm hearing and I'm listening, and I'll try and offer the balanced view, but it's hard to offer it when you see what you saw on Saturday, particularly that last sub and the lack of a Liam Walsh sub until it was too late. It's just hard.
I don't think you can argue with anybody's assessment of those things. That's what I'm hearing and seeing myself. It's one of the many different issues that are all added into the same pot of people being quite concerned about things. And every time you win, that might placate some people. So certainly we're quite happy to be very happy when we win, however we win, because bloody hell, we haven't seen a lot of wins in 2 years. That's not to say that we're going, everything's hunky-dory now, is it? That's not the case.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Against Wimbledon, and to an extent against Peterborough, we highlighted that the 90 minutes against Wimbledon was a shocking 90 minutes, but we won the game and let's build from there. We highlighted that the first hour against Peterborough wasn't really up to scratch, but we won the game, and again, let's build from there. But we haven't built, have we? We keep on hearing how this team's going to get up to speed. Well, 3 games on, it looks like it's gone from, first gear to reverse, or neutral at the very best.
Yeah, unless lessons are learned from here, quickly with a week to work with the team, with another week to try and get players out and in. We hear that that's going to be happening, but you have to wait to see it. So you can only hope that they learn from here. That is it. And if they don't, and you say it gets to 10 games, and we're like, well, we're still not quite up to speed. I think at 10 games, probably you start to realise where you are, which is usually the sort of point where this is always the thing that John Steele used to say, and I think that's probably bled into certainly my thinking and maybe others, that 10 games was where you knew what might be possible of the season. Doesn't leave a lot of time. That's the only thing, does it? Because we've done 5 already, so it puts the piles on the pressure. But maybe that's where it is. Certainly, from all the talk about the transfer window and it not closing till September 1st, albeit it's the same for everybody, it's almost like we'll get to the end of the transfer window and then see, try and get some results in the August before then. But then after that, the excuses run fairly thin. I think you've got to just produce. So we're sort of edging towards that point now, aren't we? You said earlier, what is the point? Not what is the point? Which is the point that you can say we're aiming for? What's the date? And I think probably it's that. But then like I say, it's the pressure ramps up on that.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Let's go to 10 games, but then we don't want to hear no more excuses. We had a season of them last season. We had a season of the manager making excuses. Then the manager changed, and then we had the rest of the season of board making excuses that we can't get players in and we can't get players out, and because people know that we've got money and all this, that, and the other, and then we have all of the other stuff, and then all the statements that come out after the relegation and everything else. Fans are bored of statements. Fans are bored of being told things that quite simply aren't being played out in front of our eyes. Fans just want to watch a football team that they can go and watch, pay good money for, and be entertained. And a season ticket this season, Jimbo's 460 quid. So you can pretty much equate that to 20 quid a game. 23 games times 20 is 460 quid. So we've already used 60 quid of our season ticket, and Luton have been genuinely the better side in half an hour of that time. No, they're not getting great value for money so far, are they? And yeah, okay, we've won 2 of them games and that's happy days, but we're not going to win many games of football with that level of performance, even in this division, are we? So something has to change, and let's hope it changes mighty bloody quickly. And maybe Blackpool being called off is a blessing in disguise, because Matt gets 2 weeks with any new signings that are made from Saturday to build them into the team, and let's have them ready for Plymouth at home. Let's not have this, they've not had a pre-season, we've got to build them up. Let's have a player who is ready.
I mean, those players use that to have a behind closed doors sort of game, maybe, or 2. If Tottenham can have a 2 pre-season in one game in one day, then use that wisely to get minutes into them. Because I don't think you can keep saying it. It'll be 3 weeks now for Bramall. What's pre-season? 6, so he's halfway there anyway. Yates 2. Who knows about any new players that come in, but you're approaching that time where you can't be saying that anymore.
And if you're going to say it, don't sack the Barnet game off. Use the Barnet game. If players need minutes, there's a game of football that they can get minutes in. They haven't got another game after Barnet now for, what would it be, 11 days? There's no reason now not to play a stronger team against Barnet than you were going to, particularly if you've got new signings that need to be bedded in. Get Nordos and Yates or whoever your front 2 or front 3 is going to be, get them bedded in, and go from there. And just entertain. Listen, I thought it's so weird, isn't it? In terms of performance of chances created, Saturday was probably better than the 4 games previous combined. Yet we lose that game of football, but
this is why you'll have some people saying, "Oh, this is terrible," and other people will go, "No, but on the face of it, we create loads of chances and take them, so it's not that bad." So you can see the different sides of the argument there.
Of course, but I've got to stress that if Saturday's performance was the first time it had happened, then it would have been a completely different conversation that we're having. But it's Saturday's performance in relation to the amount of Saturday performances that we saw last season, and the strong promises that we were given that we wouldn't see what we saw last season, and we're seeing again. And there was a lot of Cardiff fans that reacted to our instant reaction and kind of thought that my instant reaction was based purely on the 90 minutes that I saw. It wasn't. It was based on the 90 minutes in comparison to what I've seen over the last 12 months, as much of this podcast has been. Were we terrible on Saturday? No, we weren't. Are there room to improve on Saturday? Absolutely. Were there positives on Saturday? Of course there were positives. I thought George Saville was really, really good in the centre of the park. We've been crying out for a geezer who wants to stick his foot in and is happy to crunch into a tackle for a long, long time. And he did that, and he had to do it an awful lot more, didn't he? Because of the amount of times that Liam Walsh alongside him was giving the ball away. But he would definitely go down as a positive for sure. I thought that in the main, Mark McGuinness was pretty good on Saturday. I think he's now starting to build into that player that we had last season. He doesn't look as weight drained as he did certainly at Coventry and Bradford. So obviously extra training's getting into him, and had his header have gone in, which again was a really good save from the goalkeeper.
That was the one top class worldie, I think, because that was a difficult get.
Yeah.
Right at the on the goal line.
If that had gone in, maybe we're talking about a different story. But if however many chances against Sheffield United had gone in last season, however many chances against Middlesbrough had gone in last season, however many chances against Sunderland, I can keep on reeling these teams off, Jimbo, we'd be in the Championship right now. But they didn't. It didn't on Saturday, and we're sliding down this pyramid at a rate that no one wants us to do.
Yeah, I mean, you said to me, if you said that we just played Sheffield United in the same,
Stick
same
red
game
and white
last
shirts
season,
on them, and you've watched that game.
That's
again.
what it was, because you've got to marry the two, innit? You've got to play well and win. Sometimes you can play badly and win, and people will be okay with that. But to create that many chances and not take them adds another layer to the frustration, doesn't it?
It does. Yep. Yeah, we thought we were beyond it, didn't we? But we're not. And, well, I mean, we thought we were beyond conceding 5 in a game towards the end of last season, and we wasn't. It needs to be a massive, massive mental turnaround at this football club from top to bottom. And fans are included in that. You're right. We're not absolutely in our own sort of bubble, but in all of these 5 games, generally fans have supported the team during the game. I highlighted the cheers when Walsh went off on Saturday, which I didn't like, but by and large, they've supported the team. The reactions only come after the game. And listen, that's fine, because people pay their money, and if they don't like what they're seeing, they're entitled to express that opinion. Nobody liked what they saw in terms of correct scores, Jimbo, because there weren't any. Well, you got the correct score, but you got it the wrong way round. And no, you're not having your points for that either. No one went Cardiff 1, Luton 0.
That's more concerning at the moment. I've got absolutely 0 points whatsoever.
I think you have actually got 1 point somewhere along the line.
Have you? Can't remember what that's for.
I think you've got a point. I've got 2 points, thank you. I had picked us to win the first 2 games. But I'm still ahead of you, and long may that continue. So we shall see. Yeah, no correct scores, but I have got the leaderboard up to date, as I promised that I would do, and that is about to appear on your screens right now. That's pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. We droned on a little bit longer than what we normally would do, but you've had to wait an extra day for it, so 15 minutes longer probably isn't too bad. We hope we haven't depressed you further and that you enjoyed your bank holiday weekend. But ultimately, we pride ourselves on this podcast, Jimbo, being realistic and giving the views of the fans that we hear in and around us at football matches. And we're not just going to turn a blind eye, because necessarily isn't always positive. And that's what we've done. And let's hope when we review the next game against Burton, that all I'm hearing around me is lots more positivity, that we've enjoyed the game of football, and more importantly, that we've won the game of football and we can get on the right lines. Thanks to however it is that you've consumed the podcast, whether you've watched us on YouTube or you've listened to us on one of the many audio outlets, we really, really do appreciate your support. It is incredible the amount of people that are coming up to me and Jimbo at games saying how much that you enjoy the podcast, and even when I'm out and about in town now, Jimbo, and I'm sure this is the case with you as well, people are coming up to you and either giving us a catchphrase from the podcast or saying how much they enjoy the podcast, or when we're not about, asking where the podcast is and things like that. We really appreciate your interactions, and thank you all for your support.
Yeah, hit the old subscribe button. Tell your mates as well. That's always handy. We reached 550,000 views since the last time we were in front of our mic. That's pretty good. That's just on YouTube. So thank you to all the people that have listened for far longer on just the audio podcast, which stretches back to the League 2 days. So thank you for that. Yeah, tell everyone and get them to subscribe.
And we passed 2,500 subscribers on YouTube as well, didn't we? So we're going to need to set ourselves a new target, 3,000 by the end of the season. Is that doable? Well, you tell us.
You tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell your friends and family. And if they've not subscribed, please do. They'll get a notification when every podcast drops. We're back to regular now, aren't we? We're all sorted in our new studio and everything. And touch wood, we won't have any health issues or anything. So we're all good. And but yeah, if you subscribe, it really, really helps our numbers. Thanks again to all the folks at Marsh House, the proud new home of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, and to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music as always. Until next time, which will be later this week when we preview Luton's trip to Burton Albion. From Jimbo and myself, just entertain us, Town, please.